So the people who weren't being engaged with said, well, to hell with you, we're going to do our own. So the unconferences then became as important as the original conferences. So the first lesson I would have said is it's really important that you are all involved. And anybody who isn't here, who should be contributing, should engage in the process. And, there needs to be a way to facilitate that level of engagement. Because you don't know what you don't know until you ask the question. And we found lots of suppositions were being made that just simply weren't true.
And how did the unconferences work?
The unconferences were in areas that people felt disenfranchised. And they were really angry, which is good. Anger is really good because that gets people committing and showing up on the day. If you're too nice to them, they tend to go, oh, I'm busy. But when they're angry, they were not too busy. They were engaged. So everywhere that people were angry, they then got together and spread the word to see who else was around and did you want to have any say in it. And we'd got in a little early, so it was before the unconferences were famous, because then they became, everybody had to have one. We'd done a regional one because I'm paid for by the regional government. And it was interesting because I didn't divide it up into you create content and you're in a telco and you're public sector, so you don't tweak to each other. I made them all sit in the same room at the same time and each give their perspective. And one of the more important things that came out of it, rather than the information that went into the policy, was the communication between the parties. They had no idea. The guys who were obsessed with the internet had no idea that the rights producers had a really hard time getting back the revenue for their rights. So just even sharing their problems became a really big positive out of the whole process.
Could I comment on that? I think it's a very important process to go through. Made the remark earlier on, each person changes the world in his or her own way. And if you give people the opportunity to do so, they come out with really very central proposals and ideas. But that is the key, that somehow out of this one has to distill specific actions. And, looking at Canada right now, I think there are a lot of motherhood statements about how good the digital economy is for Canada and so on and so forth. And one has to go through that process. But I think we're at a point now where we need really to make specific recommendations to government, and in particular, because they are the enablers. There are some interesting aspects to what we already have in Canada. The Minister alluded to the fact that we're the envy of the world, with our incentives. Are they good enough? The answer is no, they're not. And there's more that can be done. And a very interesting one, which we've discussed internally in PwC, is the tremendous pool of wealth that there is in the hands of people of high wealth in this country. In other words, the so-called angels. Now, how does one bring that pool more to the surface in the digital world? The answer is, it's the same answer that one comes to every time, and that is provide the incentives. So people like parting with their money if they think they're doing good things, but they like it even better if they're getting some return for it. So if there was some special tax incentives for the angel community, specifically directed at investment in digital, in the digital economy, let me use that overall term, we would see a greater investment come out of the inherent wealth in the country. And I think that would be a very useful incentive.
Sparked a question here.
Yeah.